And we are back. Thanks for staying with us. It's time for a book chat segment this morning, and we have with us Austin Ukphorhe. He's here to talk about his book, The Field of Boaz, a tale of a broken past, redemption, and discovering God's will for marriage. Good morning.
Good morning.
Such a pleasure to have you here.
Same here too.
Your book is quite a revelation, I'll say.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that.
It is. And, you know, reading through the first few chapters of the book,
Yeah.
I'm like, I really want to meet this person because
Wow.
we live in a climate where men do not share. Men are not vulnerable, even with their partners. And here you are, you know, giving every part of yourself in this book. What inspired it?
Well, thank you. I was inspired by exactly what you said. A lot of men never share their past. A lot of men are afraid of even expressing what they've been through because they feel maybe somebody's going to bully them, somebody's going to look down or talk down at them, or judge them, and what have you. For me, I know quite well that the beginning of my marriage would have to do with my vulnerability because I was sexually molested at the age of 7, all right? And from there, I went on to be a sex addict until I was 19 when I encountered the Lord. So all of the stories from the ages of 7 to 19, if I don't unpack it, I'm going to have problems in my marriage. If I don't unpack everything I've been through, I know that it will be difficult for me to enjoy my home. And again, the second reason was because I was also coming from a broken home, all right? A broken home where I didn't see a perfect example at that time. Though my parents went on to become a great example in their later years, but the first 20 to 30 years of being with them, I will say that I needed to walk my own path. And to walk my own path, I will have to tell my story to the lady I wanted to get married to. So I'm sharing my story because it's important for men to be more vulnerable when it comes to issues about our past.
So I'll come back later to why you decided to use Boaz as your as the story, as the fiction character here, as the character you wanted to, you know, use in telling more of your story and also making such a strong impact. But let's talk about how you transition, how you turned your life around, the new lifestyle, you call it in this particular chapter. And here you referenced the 1 Timothy 1, verse 15 to 16. So let's talk about that quickly.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a journey of transformation.
Yeah.
And in our journey of transformation, we all have different pathways to achieve transformation. But for me, the scriptures, my view was the scriptures. And it said, be an example of the believer in conduct, all right, in speech, in purity, and in every aspect of our life. So the first thing I did was to give myself to the word. I allowed the word to seep through my soul. I allowed the word to seep through my mind. And every time the word came into my mind, I wasn't judged. I didn't feel judged. Instead, I feel motivated and encouraged to take steps towards the things I was reading. Now, I was a gangster, all right? I was a bully. I was a fighter. So for me, in fact, let me tell you something. When I gave my life to Christ, that very week, I went out to share tracts, and somebody was beating the other guy with me. I had to drop the tracts and the bucket, and I started beating that person up, and he started bleeding. When my pastor saw it, he said, "You still fight?" I said, "They were beating this guy." You know, so that's to tell you that I was on a journey. But I just stayed at it. And by the time I was like 10 years old in the Lord, I began to see the effect of those changes. And I must say here, because a lot of people think that when we talk about transformation, it's automatic.
Yeah.
Sincerely speaking, transformation is a process.
It's not a light switch.
No, it's not a light switch. What takes some people 2 years might take you 5 years, all right? But just be on that journey. So for me, that was how I began to experience changes, transformation here and there. And before you know it, I can say that some things are forever gone, never to come back in my life again.
While going through your book, there was a particular chapter that resonated with me. Catalyst for Freedom.
Oh my.
Restitution, forgiveness, and reconciliation.
I know you would touch it.
Yes, I would, because it's a big problem that a lot of us really do not acknowledge, and that is unforgiveness. And that is unforgiveness even with ourselves, because most of the time, or all the time, even every single day, we do things that maybe sometimes even contradict our values, contradict our principles, that do not align with the things that we want to become. And then we become very hard on ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we begin to subtly even punish ourselves. And thereby punishing our partners, punishing our children, and then punishing even the society.
Even the society.
Even in the little ways, we don't know the kind of
even
effects
your
this thing
immediate
has.
environment and colleagues.
Exactly. So let's touch quickly on the role of forgiving, how important it is to forgive, forgive yourself.
Sincerely speaking, the role of forgiveness is, words cannot even quantify it. The first thing is, you must trust God to forgive yourself. I'll tell you something. I lost my mom a couple of, just a year ago, and I battled with unforgiveness.
Sorry about
Now,
that.
the unforgiveness was not for others. I just couldn't forgive myself. I started feeling that, oh, if only I had done this, if I had done that, if I had done this. And I was just sucking in pain, until my wife said to me, will you deliver yourself from this pain? We spent money, we did everything, but I still couldn't express
How you were feeling.
how I was feeling, until my wife picked it and said, will you just snap out of this? All right? So when we talk about forgiveness, the first thing is, you must know that there is a God that forgives. God is merciful. With him is plenteous of mercy and redemption. So once you know that there is the God that forgives, don't let no one bully you into feeling bad for what you have done. Once there is this God that forgives, the next thing is yourself. If you can, in fact, let me put it this way. Not accepting forgiveness shows that you are proud. And not accepting the fact that God has forgiven you and you are not willing to forgive yourself shows that something fundamental is wrong with your person. Because once God forgives, he forgets. You are the one that remembers. But the moment you say, Lord, forgive me, and even if you don't hear an answer, the moment you say, Lord, forgive me, you have restituted that position and is forgiving you.
Let's move on from there. If you want to learn more about that, I think you should go get the book Field of Boaz, right? Because it's a review. We're not, it is a review. But quickly, let's touch on Boaz, the character here that you decided to, build your story around.
Okay.
The Field of Boaz. Why Boaz?
Yes, Boaz, because number one, Boaz is, in this context, a Jew. And as a Jew, he's not supposed to marry someone that is an outcast or an outsider. All right? So Boaz decided to go for this woman called Ruth. Number two, Boaz is wealthy. And we saw the generosity of Boaz when Ruth appeared in the field. He said, don't just give her handout. Deliberately leave some of my best crops for her to be able to harvest. Number three, you would notice that at night, Boaz was sleeping and Ruth was around his skirt. And he woke up and he said, what's going on here? He didn't call her my girlfriend. He called her my sister, my daughter. So a man like that already gave us an entry point into how family life should be looked into. Number five, the reason is because oftentimes, most of us look at the story of Field of Boaz from redemption alone. And I wanted to literally speak about Boaz the man and Boaz the husband, as against Boaz, a type of Jesus that brought redemption. Yes, that was what happened there. But we also saw that he was willing to be an example of a husband that would not take advantage of a young lady who was vulnerable that time. So Boaz didn't take advantage of her vulnerability. Instead, Boaz covered her and protected her, transformed her, brought her in as his wife. These are the reasons why I decided to go with Boaz. And you know, of course, you can marry Boaz to Joseph, right?
Yes. We talked about that earlier on, where I said that there's a lot of similarities between the story of Boaz and Joseph,
Yes,
because these were men that protected their women. They literally gave their lives for their women, you know, to preserve them, to keep them, to honor them.
Honor them.
Honor them.
Yes.
Because we live in a climate where we're not saying that, you know, but there's so much, you know, in that there's so much false narratives and disparities between the male and the female gender. And it sometimes feels like there is some competition somewhere where it is this gender versus this
That
gender. But it is not.
It is not.
We were coined from your loins.
Yes.
So we're all supposed to
You
protect.
can say that again. You were coined from my loins. That's it. From my rib.
Yes, from your rib.
And so I'm supposed to unveil
exactly.
you. I'm supposed to protect you.
Yes.
I'm supposed to allow you find expression.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, there's a sad story. Let me just quickly put it out there. A lady who was working and couldn't tell her husband how much she was earning. All right, that's one. Number two, every time she wanted to add more value to herself, the man says, I'm an accountant, you're an accountant, I don't have a professional accounting certifications, so you're going to remain this way. Now, that's not a man willing to unveil a woman. All right? It's a man that is caging a woman. And there is nowhere in the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible where the scriptures say we should cage a woman. Instead, we are supposed to unveil a woman.
But what you just said now just takes me back to the point we raised earlier on.
Okay.
On forgiveness.
Yes.
Because if you do not forgive yourself, forgiveness comes from a place of love.
Absolutely.
And you have to love yourself
Yes.
to be able to forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
And once you have experienced that resurgence or that freedom, then you're able to just allow people express themselves in, you know, whichever way they would love to.
Yes.
This is quite an insightful book, Navigating the Journey Towards Redemption and Finding God's Purpose for a Blissful Marriage. I think it's a must read.
Yep.
For every man.
Yeah.
And even women as well, because there's so much to learn from. Because there's nothing wrong with the woman reading it and also, you know, teaching the man. Yeah. Because I feel like marriage is an institution where both partners are meant to learn from one another.
I mean, I'm married for 15 to 16 years now.
Wow.
And maybe I have just my BSc and 1 or 2 certifications. My wife is a chartered accountant. My wife has masters in finance. My wife is a chartered banker. My wife is a professional. Now, if I am not secured, I will be threatened
by that.
But hey, she makes the money, she gets the car, I drive the car.
Fantastic.
There's nothing bad there. That's because I'm secured.
This is quite an insightful conversation. It's a beautiful read, The Field of Boaz. Thank you so much, Austin, for sharing your story with the world.
Thank you for having me.
I think you at home watching, go get this book, The Field of Boaz. And that's it on our book chats conversation for now.